The Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has warned that the autonomous Kurdish region of Erbil has become a headquarters for the militant group ISIS. The group are tightening their grip on northern and western Iraq and have already taken control of Fallujah and Tikrit. The self-proclaimed Islamic State now extends from the Syrian province of Aleppo to the Iraq province of Diyala. The announcement came a week after Kurdish leaders said that preparations are underway for a referendum on self-determination. Well, the crisis in Iraq has brought together some unlikely allies. The United States has deployed 300 military advisors and has drones on station to protect US personnel on the ground. But despite requests from Iraq, they've ruled out any airstrikes in the region for now. Russia has supplied Iraq with a number of Su-25 attack aircraft in a deal worth nearly £300 million. And Iran has said it will provide its western neighbour with whatever is needed to counter the Sunni militants. It's already supplied aircraft, and one of its pilots was killed in Iraq last weekend. Well, Iraq's ambassador to the US, Lukman Faili, is in Washington for us now. Ambassador, good evening to you. How serious do you think is the situation right now in your country? I mean, is it completely out of control of your government in these northern areas?
We have a serious challenge in relation to the security in a number of provinces. We also have the re-establishment of our infrastructure of the army as a result of the situation in Mosul last month. Therefore, the situation is serious. It's the integrity of state still in question. We need international support to help us to deal with this international terrorist organization.
Let's talk a little bit about that international support, if we may. I mean, do you feel let down by the United States? They're not doing what you would like?
We have a strategic framework agreement with the United States, which talks about the protection of a democratic government and the people of Iraq. We expect the United States to work with us. They have been working with us in relation to provision of counterintelligence and some capabilities. We expect more. The situation requires more. And we think that to protect that democracy, we need to work closer, deeper, and more in other areas of cooperation, such as air supremacy and so on.
Right, but when Barack Obama was weighing this up, and it took him quite some time, he did say, and he said it very clearly, he said it repeatedly, that in essence this is a political problem. It is not simply a military problem. And by a political problem, he meant that Mr. Maliki's government has not been inclusive enough to include some people from the Sunni community in the north in particular.
There is a government formation going on. The parliament will sit in again on Sunday to talk about the speaker, then the presidency, then the premiership. That's a democratic process. We have to go through a certain process, which the constitution stipulates. We're going through that process. We are trying to get everybody involved as a reflection of the parliament. This was a fair election by all standards. So in that sense, we're democratic and we're going through certain processes. Who's the next Prime Minister? We will leave that to the parliamentarians and to our democracy to establish. As to the support, we somewhat disagree that the urgency on the ground is too high and too high risk for us to think about just a political dimension. Certainly, there are politics, there are work we need to do to get our house in order. Nobody is denying that. But what we're saying is the risk in destruction, in ethnic cleansing and everything else which is going on now in Mosul. Sunnis, imams are being executed and others. This is not politics. This is pure terrorism by a pure terrorist organization such as Al-Qaeda and ISIL.
But given that ISIL, as it's called in the United States, or ISIS as it's called over here, has extended its range, it's got an area basically from the west of Syria right through your country, and it seems to be able to hold on to territory. Do you really think that you can re-establish the Iraq that we knew before in the borders that were set up 100 years ago without bits simply fragmenting, the Kurdish area, for example?
No, we have as a government an obligation. We have a parliament to reflect the whole of Iraq. The recent election was done in the whole of Iraq. Even in those who were security concerns in areas such as Anbar, 40% participation. So we have a democratic government with democratic representation of the whole of Iraq. We have an obligation to protect everybody in our confines. This is international, ethical, religious, legal requirement on us to do. So surely you should not expect us to say, well, this is not part of Iraq no longer. We will have an obligation, and we expect others to help us, because the situation is not just domestic. What you mentioned, Syria and others, this is becoming more regional, and as every day passes by, the longer ISIL have control, the longer it's becoming regional and global concern. That's the scope of the situation.
And then just a final thought. We mentioned the aid you're receiving from Iran. We mentioned the aid that you're receiving from Russia. Do you think that you will be considerably more grateful to them than perhaps to the United States in the future, given the problems that you've discussed?
We are grateful to anybody who can help us in our situation. The countries you mentioned share with us the concern. United States, more than anybody else, share that concern. We appreciate what United States have done to us over the last years and years, and we appreciate what they have done now. They are providing us with a lot of support. We need more. We have chosen the United States as our partner. We will certainly appreciate all the support we are getting and we will get from the United States.
Ambassador Fairley, thank you very much for joining us from Washington. Thank you.